determined and positive. His positive is cognitive, no better ambassador for fishing. Foremost, fishing for England is wishing, but that's on his list that he's done. Managed Carp England and won. A lawyer, his chosen profession, but angling's his, a lifelong obsession. A man that won't give up, won't lose.
Welcome to the podcast, Rob Hughes. Hello and welcome to the Fishery Fastlane podcast. We're here at Carpenter's Lake in Wanstrove, Somerset, and I'm here joined with Rob Hughes. Now, I'm a little bit out of my depth here being so early in my podcasting sort of...
Career, let's call it a career. Yeah, we'll call it a career. Let's call it a career. You're starting a new career.
I needed the help there, thank you.
There we go, no problem.
So Rob is obviously very seasoned and much better at this sort of thing than I am, so I feel well out of depth. But Rob, when I first reached out to you to try and get you on the podcast, I know it was a bloody challenge, so I know you're all over the place. Why is that?
I love being busy.
Yeah.
There is so much to do.
Yeah.
In every direction.
Yeah.
That I'm not quite going to call myself a Catherine wheel. That I go off in all sorts of directions, but I just love doing stuff. You know, I can't understand people being bored. How can you be bored? There is so much to do. There's so much life to live.
But not necessarily in our homeland. It was all over Europe, it seemed.
Well, I'm really privileged to work globally. And, you know, that's great. It has its challenges, of course. A prime example is that I'm going to Romania tomorrow. I think when we spoke, it was Hungary. I spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe. It's brilliant. I love meeting people. I love having adventures. And I think that's the key thing. There are so many adventures to have that you're not going to have them sitting there doing nothing. So just... You know,
so how would you introduce yourself to a stranger? What would you say, or to summarise what you do?
I had to do that yesterday and it was really hard because people say, what do you do? And I can't pigeonhole myself in any way, shape or form by saying I do this. The best thing I say is that I'm an angling ambassador, that what I do is I'm a professional angler that promotes fishing. That's what I do. So, you know, one day, like today, here we are today, and we're doing a podcast. I've got a prep in readiness for a trip tomorrow. So all good stuff, getting fishing kit ready, talking about fishing. Yesterday, I had a meeting with a boat company. I was down on the south coast, and we're talking about the promotion of sea fishing and how we can look over at a crossover between getting anglers to look at sea fishing and to get people that have already got boats that are basically nauticals, for want of a better word. How can we get them to go fishing?
Right.
Because, you know, there's all sorts of ways that we can promote our sport. We can keep doing what we're doing. You and I are both anglers. We like to fish, so let's just keep us going. Let's get us going more often. Then there's recruiting new anglers, and we look at have a look at how we can get people into the sport doing the sort of thing that we do. But then let's look the other way. Let's look at people that love the sea, that have got boats, that actually it's not a big step to when you're selling somebody a boat or when they're picking a boat up, have they got a fishing rod? Because they'll buy a speedboat, they'll buy a life jacket, they'll buy a donut or something like that. Well, why don't we sell them a fishing rod at the same time?
Yeah, well, when last year, actually, I think it was, where we were going to go out on Viv's boat, tuna fishing. Yeah. And sea fishing has never really appealed to me. I think anything in the sea has got 12 eyes and a cock, and it's, you know, there's this, or it doesn't ever. It frightens me what comes out of the sea sometimes. And I thought I'm never going to enjoy that. And then we went, and it was amazing. Yes, like the dolphins, that stuff you never realise is on the UK coast, and it was like these massive tuna, the way they. The eruptions on the surface, and it's like hunting because you're out in the boat looking for diving birds and any activity out there, and it was just a different style of angling that if it was up to me, I probably never would have done it. Yeah. But because we were like, something different, we went.
Isn't that what's great about fishing? Because it can be whatever you want it to be. You know, if you want to be a carp angler and you want to be a solitary carp angler hunting one individual fish, you can do that. You can lock away on your own and you can get away from everybody. You can do that. Yeah. If you want to be competitive, you can sit in a line with 100 other blokes on boxes and you can have the competition element. If you decide that you want to go into the sea and you want the big adventure of catching the biggest thing and the great fight, you can do that as well. Yeah. You know, we're all anglers. And when it's quite interesting talking to non-anglers, because I always describe fishing a little bit like motorsport, that although we're all anglers, there's very different disciplines. A lot of the time you don't get crossover, and we really should cross-promote. In angling, you've got fish and a rod, and in motorsport, you've got wheels and an engine.
Yeah.
But a motocrosser who likes 2 wheels off-road isn't necessarily into Formula One. Yeah. So, there's similar parameters. And when you talk about fishing like that, because everybody from the outside looks at fish and thinks, oh, it's a load of old boring farts that are getting away from their wife on a Sunday morning and they're down the canal in the Midlands, just miserable. Mm-hmm. And it couldn't be further from the truth. There's so much to our sport.
Yeah, I think you have a very positive outlook. To me, what seems here, that you have a very positive outlook on angling and the direction it's going. Do you see any negative traits that maybe technology's brought in, or how angling is represented?
Negativity is a mindset. It's not actually a physical thing. And it's really important to remember that, because people think there's loads of negativity. No, there's not. You're generating that negativity. You're making that, and you're powering that negativity with your own mindset.
Yeah.
Because it isn't actually a thing. It's not like, right, there's a load of negativity, or I'll eat that. Oh, bugger me, I'm negative now. It's a case of, it's a mindset. Yeah. So, let's look at the political world at the moment. We are in complete and utter chaos. It really winds me up when I look at that, and I just think, I just don't want a part of that now. I don't believe any politicians, don't believe any parties. It's all a load of absolute rubbish. I'm not going to let that frustrate me and cause me any negativity. And on the bank here, if you want to use a bait boat, use a bait boat. If you want a drone, use a drone. I'd rather you didn't fly over me. I don't want to be pestered by it. I don't want you looking at me, and I don't really want you flying over my peg. But if you turn around and go, I've just caught this, who used a bait boat and a drone, I'll go, did you enjoy it? You'll say yes, I'll go, happy days.
Yeah.
Credibility-wise is a different matter. Yeah. But I am absolutely, and I mean this with the greatest respect to every other single angler out there, and I'll look down the barrel of the camera now, I don't care what you catch or how you catch it, because it doesn't have any bearing on me. Unless you're catching the one target fish that I'm trying to catch. And then I think, bugger, he's caught the one I wanted. But that, I just don't care.
No.
Because it's not going to affect my life. It's not going to affect my life if you caught it using a bait boat, or whether you stalked it out the edge on a potato.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference. So why do we get upset about other people's captures?
Yeah, I think like the last few podcasts that I've done, I felt like on reflection, I was probably down a more negative route. But when you start looking at negatives, you naturally find more negatives, and it almost becomes...
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? But, the other thing is that people like controversy. We like jeopardy. Yeah. I've been making television programs for a long time, and if you make Bambi and it's all wonderful, then people look at it and go, oh, it was all right, but it was like a sweet cornetto. Whereas if somebody might not catch anything, they might fail, they might fall over... then actually the audience like that, because we like jeopardy, will they, won't they? We like drama.
Yeah.
I mean, EastEnders has been going for God knows how long, hasn't it? What a hateful programme that is. It's just negativity.
I said this a lot to my friends, that people that watch a lot of soaps and watch a lot of drama, they think that's what life is, and you have to react in those ways. You have to have this drama in your life because that's what they're consuming all the time. And I think that is, like you just said there, it's such a negative thing to be absorbing, I find. There's challenges. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Mr. Happy Clappy all the time going, woo, isn't this wonderful? I'm not a born again whatever. Life is tough. It has challenges, but how you approach it is ultimately how you will deal with it. And if you deal with it negatively, it's probably going to be a bit of a negative outcome. Or if it isn't, you're not going to be happy with the outcome, because you're going to think, oh, when he just managed to do that. Yeah.
There are challenges thrown at us, exactly the same as everyone else. We all have you've got family, you've got finance, you've got life, you've got time, you've got all of these things that come at it.
Yeah.
But positivity is the one thing I think that gets you through.
Yeah. So where I was going is with angling, how are you deal with would you say, the neutral sort of public that perhaps aren't, you're sort of an ambassador for angling to perhaps people that aren't familiar with the scene.
Yeah.
Do you think that sometimes angling is a bit of a stain on the countryside, whether you get very busy fisheries that litter, and how are we seen by the general public?
I think if we go absolutely on the law of averages, if you take 100% of the population, 25% of the population either like angling, or they fish, or they do it, or they know someone that does it. So they're quite open to it and they like it. 25% of it, they can't stand it. They think it's cruel. They don't think we should be doing it. All of that rubbish. You know what? I'm not going to bother talking to them because I'm never going to convince them otherwise. So as a result, I'm not interested. What I am interested in is the 50% in between, because those are the 50% that if they can understand why we do it, what we do, and how much we like what we do, they'll understand that thing. And I've taken so many non-anglers fishing, they've gone, "Oh, I didn't realise it was like this." I run a place called Shearwater. Shearwater down the road. It's one of the biggest, most popular fisheries in the area. We've got a dam wall. It's a public park lake, and the dam wall gets an awful lot of traffic. People walking past back and to all the time. And if you've got a grumpy bugger on that dam wall who swears at people and is miserable, then anybody walking past thinks that's what anglers are like. I make sure that dam wall is policed properly, and that we've got it's our shop front. And whenever I'm down there, you get people going past. They see us playing fish. Kids will come up straight to us like, "Hi, oh, can we have a look?" "Yeah, come in straight away. Come and have a look. Do you want to stroke it? Do you want to have a look at it?" "Oh." And then while they're coming in and having a look and being really excited, they'll look at the fish. But they'll also, I will be explaining to them, when we've caught this fish, we put it on this green thing, which is like a baby changing mat. It's an unhooking mat because we don't want it to land on the floor and damage itself. We pour water on it to keep it wet. Because in their minds, when they're not anglers, even if they haven't said it, they're thinking, "Is it all right?" So I go through that process preempting it, saying, "We've got it out, it's on a mat." It's a bit like going to the doctors or the dentist, actually. It comes to me, I'll check it, put some water on it. We've got this, which is like an antiseptic spray. We spray it on. We'll have a quick photograph, come and stroke it. We love these things. Put it back in again. Let's say goodbye to the fish, and they all wave goodbye to the fish. And that's it. Now they will go away, that family or that group will go away. And those children, that might be the first exposure they've ever had to a fish. And they will always remember the first exposure. You will always remember the first time you saw a fish, that you caught a fish. So those kids will go away and go, "Remember that really nice bloke? Because he looked after that fish." And this is what we need to be sowing all the time. So, that positivity, negativity, actually what it is, it's neither positive nor negative. What it actually is, it's reality. Because that's what we do. It's just we hide ourselves away. People don't see it very often. So wherever we've got a public interface or a shop front, we need to be on that really good behaviour. And the amount of people that want to come now, the amount of mums that are walking up and down with these kids going, "Oh, my little one would love to try fishing. How can we do it? Where can we go?" And then it's a signposting thing. So, it's great for the sport.
So how would you police that then? If there's fisheries that are listening or watching to this, that would, what you've said there about your anglers and that are basically your shop front, that are, how do you police somebody that's perhaps being a bit of a pain, or how would you get around that?
I think the key thing first and foremost is it's respect. Isn't it? If you respect your members should extend that courtesy back to you of being respectful and not being grumpy on your venue. So I just think, I don't know. It's an education thing. We should all do it. There's times where I don't want to talk to people. There's times where I just want to get on with the fishing. There's times where, you just think, "Oh God, someone's coming for a chat again." All I want to do is just have a little bit of peace and quiet. But I'm in a slightly different situation, I suppose, because I am a little bit more front of house. And as a result, it's my duty. I feel. And it's my duty as an angler. And everybody has that duty as an angler to support their sport. So why would you try and sabotage it by saying things that you shouldn't do, or being grumpy, or not reflecting the sport in the best way that you possibly can? It's like football hooligans. I grew up in the 1980s. It was just one of them things. It's not great. It goes on. Let's not try and sugarcoat it. It's there. If they want to go off and have a tear up in a car park between them, you crack on and do that. That's fair enough. Don't do it outside the ground if you can do. Don't do it where there's kids around. It gives the wrong impression, and football hooligans can taint the whole of football.
It's the same, I think, because at the minute you see with social media and the pros and cons that come with that, and everyone's got a voice, and you see people in our industry that are professionals at it, but they're bickering with each other, and it's kind of, there's only losers that come out of that. There's never a positive that comes from two professionals going at each other, because ultimately, as an industry, we're representing.
See, I actually quite like a debate about stuff, because I think it opens people's minds. But it's the second stage of that. I'm very happy to have a disagreement with you over something, and we can discuss it. But I'm not going to take it personal, because we've just got a difference of opinion. So there's no point in doing that. And part of the reason why I would have a disagreement with you is because, number one, I would like to try and change your mind so you can see my point. Mm-hmm. But secondly, I'm open to you changing mine.
Yeah.
And if you turn around and say something, I'll be thinking, you know what, actually, you've got a point there.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that we get so entrenched in our own views that we're not prepared to open our mind. I'm a lawyer by trade.
Okay.
So I spent an awful lot of my early years in court on my hind legs, talking. So apologies if I'm talking a lot. I do tend to talk a lot. But one of the things that I have to do is I've got to counter any argument that you put forward. So I need to be thinking about it. And if you come up with a really good argument, I've got to think, fine, you know what, it might be right there. So you've got to open your mind to other people's thought process.
I find that so important. I've noticed myself when I give advice, I always summarise with not like to keeping my mind open, almost negating what I've just said, because I don't want to, as soon as you think you're completely right, you stop learning and you close off any opportunity and the opportunity to learn. And I think that's so important. I think people could learn so much more if you just keep an open mind and always second guess yourself. You can have an opinion, but be open to having something challenge it.
There's always more than one way of doing or achieving something. Always. Even if it's a case of it might be a longer route, but getting from A to B, people think they want to get from A to B there. But if you go to A to B there, you might be quick, but you might miss a really nice scene that way. Or if you went that way, you might miss really nice people. Yeah. But all of these three different versions are always getting from A to B. Yeah. But, you know, modern life is quick. So as a result, we want to get from A to B to quickest. Yeah. So as a result, we dismiss everything else. But you know, and this you can apply this to your angling as well, because it isn't just a case of, right, I've got to get this out there. Yeah. Slow down a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. You know, what I'm finding with my angling is that, strangely, I'm slowing down with my angling, and I'm probably, at the moment, I'm enjoying it more, and I would say I'm starting to catch more. Yeah. By slowing down. Now, slowing down doesn't necessarily mean that I'm slowing my effort levels or that I'm basically being lazy. It means that I'm slowing down my thought process and considering a bigger picture a lot more. Yeah, to consume it, to get time to sort of take it in. Because if you rush, and I'm a bugger for rushing. Yeah. You know, everybody knows that if I arrive within an hour of when I said I was going to arrive, I'm still early. I'm unfortunately, timekeeping can be, I'm working on it, but timekeeping can be a bit of a thing because I'm always late, because I'm always rushing to do stuff. Yeah. And as I'm getting older now, I'm starting to try and slow everything down to be slightly more considered about it. Yeah. And that might be rushing into a thing, rushing into an opinion or doing something. And it's just a sign of maturity, I think. Yeah. So, Rob, you've done a lot with Sky. Where are you with that? Do you still represent angling on a media level as well? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I worked with Sky Sports for 15 years. I started with them in, I'm going to say 2000, but it was actually before then. I was a guest on an old TV program called Tight Lines. There was an old live studio show that a Radio 1 DJ called Bruno Brooks used to present. And then Keith Arthur was the guest, and he used to get someone else on there. So I went on there as a guest in the late 90s, I think 96, 97. Right. So started off doing that. Yeah. And then when I set the British Carp Champs up in 99, I spoke to them about doing some telly on it, and they said, yeah, we'll send a crew over. And then the following year I said, look, how about making a standalone programme? Because we've never had on Sky Sports fishing competition programmes. You know, you're a sport channel, but the programming that you've got is how-to rather than sport report. Right. And they went, well, how are you going to make a carp fishing program? Excited. I went, don't you worry about that. Let me have a crack at it. And I remember speaking to the head of channel at the time, and he went, all right then, go on, we'll let you have a run at it. So he said, I'll give you the cameraman, but you'll have to work out who's going to present it, who's going to produce it, who's going to direct it. We'll do the editing for you, but you'll have to work with them. So I'm like, right, okay. So I'm thinking, who's going to do that? And I was looking around thinking, who's going to do it? And I thought, well, nobody knows more about it than I do. So it's probably got to be me fairly, and not because I wanted to shove my face in front of the camera, but because there wasn't anybody that knew about it. I'd been to every event for the last couple of years. I knew the people. I knew everything about it. So it had to be me that did it. So I was thinking, right, okay. And while I was in there, I said, well, as I've caught you in a good mood, is there any chance we can do a TV series on carp fishing? Because you've got Tight Lines, which is a fishing program. But it'd be great to do one just about carp fishing, because carp fishing's the biggest and the best, and it'd be great to do that. And he laughed. He went, "Don't run before you can walk." He said, "I've already given you a bone with doing the British Carp Champs." He went, "Get that done. If that's any good, come back and have a chat."
Okay.
It's like, right, happy days, I will do. So got the TV program, made it, aired it, sorted it all out, went back to him and said, "There you go." He went, "Go on then, you can have a 6-part series." So I set up the Carp Show. It took a long time to think about that name, right. But we set up the Carp Show, which was, when was that? That would be 2001, I suppose. So it was the first ever carp fishing television series. So I worked with them for a while, like I say, 15 years. So Tight Lines, British Carp Angling Championships, World Carp Classic, Carp Show. Then we moved into Extreme Carp. I did another series called Absolute Match, which moved into match fishing. Just doing all sorts of bits and bobs. And then 9 years ago, sorry, I'm just looking at, we're going to interrupt this podcast to bring you a news flash. Unfortunately, you can't see it, but I can. My dog has just run on the island. Is he all right out there, lads? Spud! Do I need to come in and rescue you? Come on, you're 10 years old. Come on. Yeah.
There's no line on that. How's he got that caught? I was caught on his collar, look.
Apologies, we were just interrupted there by Spud, who's Rob's dog. And we're, for those listening, we're at Carpenter's Lake. So in the background of the cameras, we've got a syndicate lake here with a couple of islands just out here. And Spud likes to flush a few birds, but it seems...
Well, he's a spaniel, so he's doing spaniel things, and he's been allowed to have a little trot around everywhere. And one of his jobs that he's been trained for is lifting birds, so he's obviously thought, well, that's what Dad wants me to do, I'll go and do it then. But anyway, he's secured now.
We were talking about, where were we? Talking about Sky?
We were talking about Sky, yeah. So I worked with Sky for 15 years doing loads of television programmes. This is before Thinking Tackle, because everyone knows about Thinking Tackle, the caller that did it there. So, this was, I don't know, it was a good few years before Thinking Tackle was on there as well. So Carp Show was the first one, then Extreme Carp, which was looking at different venues, really big, really small, that sort of thing. Absolute Match, got first ever match fishing television series on there. And of course the sport reports as well. That was my key aim. Right. And then it was 9 years ago now, BT Sport got in touch with me and said, would you be interested in talking to us about doing some fishing television programming? Right. So I said, well, I'm with Sky, I'm quite happy there. And they went, well, come in and have a meeting and we'll have a chat. So I thought, I'll go and see what they want to do. And with Sky, massive channel, but very football orientated. Right. So as a result, we would get a series going on in September, October. We'd get a few programmes on when the football season wasn't on, but the rest of the time it's football dominant. Okay. BT Sport was a lot more multi-sport. So yes, they've got a good football content, but they do a little bit of everything. So they said, look, we'd really be interested in coming and doing some, or you coming over and doing some fishing stuff, would you? So I said, I will do, but we want consistency, continuity with it. I'd like a weekly show. We'd like a good time slot. So they're giving me 9:00 on a Monday night. And it's been on every week at Monday, 9:00 every night on BT Sport for the last 9 years. Yeah. Last year they got bought out by TNT Sports. Okay. So, there's not a lot of fishing on telly. It comes and goes, doesn't it? So, everybody knows about Mortimer and Whitehouse, about the Monster Carp Boys, obviously Ali's stuff as well. Yeah. And that's sort of come up recently on ITV, but behind the scenes, same old message all the time, just promoting angling, bit of easy watch stuff. We've been running on the bank now for 9 years. Right. So that is, I believe, because we do 25 programmes a year, it's now one of the longest running fishing TV series ever. Wow. Which is quite cool.
Had you had media training? Because I in my head, I'd assumed that you'd come from a media background and kind of merged into fishery. So when you said you're about a lawyer, I thought, I didn't know that side. Yeah. So how did you get into media?
I fell into it.
And so you hadn't had any training at all as such?
Wow. None at all. I'd had advocacy training, obviously, for my legal career. But I think, again, it's... How can I describe it? It's just being real. I think that's one of the most important things that we need to be, because people tend to be, I'm not an actor. I can't act. Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely in no way, shape or form an actor. No. But I can commentate. And I know fishing inside out.
I'm Ben Pinniger and I'm your podcast host. For those of you that don't know me, my business is called BP Milling, where I specialise in producing plant-based pellets for fisheries that break down fast. I farm my own carp entirely on my pellets, and you can see me doing exactly that over on my BP Milling YouTube channel. So if you're enjoying the Fishery Fastlane content and you haven't discovered the BP Milling YouTube channel, then there is loads more content like this where we deep dive on the science behind running fisheries, how to run fisheries in a healthy way, and how I farm my carp. There's loads of video over there of me doing exactly that. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about my pellets, we have an online shop where you can purchase the feeds directly, delivered to you in bulk or in single bag quantities at www.bpmilling.co.uk. Yeah.
So, you know, if you're confident about your subject, you can talk about it.
Yeah.
It's just the confidence of who you're going to be talking in front of.
Yeah.
You know, with TV cameras, a lot of the time there's no one there.
Yeah.
You know, live audience is different. Obviously, I've done a lot of live work with Sky Sports. I now work internationally, so hence the reason I'm here, there and everywhere. But I've worked with TV channels in, let me get them right, so Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Czech Republic. So there's one channel over there called Fishing and Hunting. They do a lot of live stuff as well, which is really cool. I work with a Scandinavian Predator television company, or a group that make programs for Scandinavian TV. So that broadcasts across Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden into Germany.
Right.
I used to work with a Russian TV company that broadcast in Ukraine and Bulgaria, which was Krilik. So, you know, it's global.
This is still angling?
All fishing.
How is it different to UK angling? Is there any difference at all across Europe, how angling is?
Yeah, angling is a lot more of a mainstream sport overseas than it is here, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's seen as a bit of a nerdy sport. You know, for again, like I say, old men getting away from the wives on a Sunday morning over here, and it's boring. Whereas, like predator fishing in Scandinavia is massive.
Is it commercialised over there, or is it kind of just like the park lakes? You turn up and it's almost hunting.
There's almost everywhere where the water is public. It's better. The land, Scandinavia is really interesting. Finland in particular, all the water is public, but all the land is private.
Right.
So loads of people have lake houses. You know, Finland's called the land of 1,000 lakes. There's water absolutely everywhere. Sweden's very, very similar. So they all have lake houses, but all of these lakes are public lakes. So if you've got a national rod license, you go where you want, fish where you want. Okay. You just can't get off and go in someone's garden to do it. So as a result, that's why boat sales over there are massive. So loads and loads of people are into boats. Right. So, and they're American-style bass boats, you know, those sort of things, 300 horsepower Mercury V6 engines. It's like Formula One fishing. Yeah. It is about as far removed from the picture that people have in UK of fishing, which is a little man sitting on his own in the quiet, watching a kingfisher come and land on the end of his rod. In Sweden, me and you are in a boat, we've got a cooler, we've got a load of beers, we've got a 300 horsepower V6 Mercury engine on the back of it, and our boat can do 80 mile an hour. Yeah. So we're going out and we're catching pike. Yeah. And then when those two turn up and they're by the side of us, we're going to race into the spot and have a bit of fun together.
Yeah, I've seen some of your pictures recently, the perch.
Yes.
Immense.
Yeah.
That's something else, isn't it?
You know, I'm a carp angler. Yeah. Well, ultimately I'm an angler. My primary passion is carp fishing. I love everything about carp fishing, whether it's stalking them off the surface or sitting in a bivvy for a week on a 5,000 acre French reservoir. I love all of that. But one of my problems is I'm very time poor. Right. And being time poor, I can't make any more time. There isn't any more of me. I'd love to replicate myself and go twice. Yeah. But I can't make any more time. But what I can do is make what I'm doing shorter. So as a result, I do an awful lot more predator fishing now. Okay. Just going back to 2017, I was working with Sport England to try and engage people to go fishing more. I won't bore you with all the government politics on it, but there was back in 2015, 16, 17, there was a government promise that they were going to reduce the burden on the NHS by getting people out and doing more sport. So it was, don't be a couch potato back then, and it was health and well-being rather than health and fitness rather than health and well-being. So it's now the skew has changed a little bit more. That it's still health, but there's a lot more mental health now since COVID. Right. But prior to that, it was all about health and fitness. So they wanted to get people moving. They wanted to get sport done more, and literally they failed in almost everything that they tried to do because they promised the world and couldn't do it. Yeah. It was never feasible. So they're looking down the list, going, right, we need to get more people participating in sport. And there was a 3 times 20 minute thing that they wanted to get people doing sport 3 times a week for 20 minutes. But it's difficult to do that. You can jog a little bit, but not many people do that. So that's like an hour a week. So they went, well, actually, why don't we do an hour a week? So they looked and thought, well, if actually people playing football once a week, that's an hour a week, so that could be broken down as 3 times 20. And then they went, well, what about fishing? It's like, well, we're not going to go for an hour, but you might go for 4 hours. So if you go for 4 hours, one person going fishing for 4 hours is a monthly target.
Yeah.
So the government came in and went, right, let's get more people fishing because that hits our target.
Okay.
Long and short of it.
Yeah.
So we basically had to try and encourage more people to go fishing. But again, barriers to participation, number 1, time, number 2, money. They are the barriers to almost every single participation there is, or almost everything. If you want to do something, the 2 things are, can I afford it and have I got the time to do it? Doesn't matter what it is.
Normally got one or the other, haven't you?
Yeah. So after that, there's all sorts of other things like where to go, who to go with, where's the facility, understanding whatever it is to do. But the 2 things are always time and money. So I thought, well, what we need to do is we need to make fishing cheaper. And also what we need to do is make it shorter. Because we can't give people more money and we can't give people more time. So why don't we reduce what they've got to do, which is when the drop shotting thing started off, that there was a huge promotion there that actually you can go fishing. Because the other target was that we'd gone through all the things that we needed to do and we had to start it in winter. So it's great. I've got to get more people going fishing more often, but we've got to do it in winter when the majority of people are hanging the rods up.
Yeah.
So how do you solve that problem? The biggest, and I say this all the time, people know me, will be smiling now, but I always say the biggest problem is we don't know what the problem is. Okay. As human beings, we're quite clever. We can normally solve a problem, but a lot of the time we're too quick into solving the problem. We don't solve the right problem. And fishing's a prime example of it. You know, if you sit back and think, what's the problem? Then actually the solution sometimes jumps out. So biggest problem is now we've got to get more people going fishing at a cheaper cost with less time in the winter when everybody's hanging their rods up. Now, that's quite a big problem. So cut the time down. Where can you go for 2, 3, 4 hours? Well, predator fishing is ideal for that. Cut the cost down. There's perch everywhere. Literally, absolutely everywhere, every single lake. So people that already got tickets have got perch in front of them. If you haven't got a ticket, the canals have got great perch in them. Canals are dirt cheap. You can buy a Waterways Wanderer permit for the majority of canals for 20 odd quid. So it's a really cheap, easy way of doing it. Actually, you don't need much time. You can go predator fishing for a couple of 3 hours. It's not like going carp fishing. The best time for predator fishing is the last hour. So you can actually do it for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So if you look at time, cost, money, facility, it ticks all the boxes. So as a result, it was a case of let's have a big push on predator fishing.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, you get the likes of Terry Owen going out and catching a big perch, going, this is the carpiest thing in the world ever. I've just had a big perch, and everyone goes, I want to catch a perch. But they don't know where or how or what to do. So let's offer them this drop shot fishing.
So was that campaign fruitful, or did you see the results in people
100%,
taking it
yeah.
up? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting because what you may or may not know, but there's all sorts of surveys done about fishing that you don't realise. You might be walking through the high street and outside, you know, the co-op, somebody stops you and says, can I ask a few questions? And there's all sorts of surveys done.
Right.
It's called insight data. Okay. And there's loads of insight data that are taken from either within angling or outside of angling about what people's habits are. You know, marketeers are looking at things all the time.
Yeah.
They study you not just through social media, but they study you, in the high street. They talk, they'll ask questions. There's companies that ring you up and ask all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And when you look at this insight data and it marries up with tying in with the trade, looking at what their trade sales are, you know, you can see that actually there is a huge push. And we got a 17% interest in participation over that winter period,
wow. Okay.
which I was particularly really proud of, because when you look at angling generally, it was dropping. And to have a 17% turnaround at that time. And that's measured insight data. It's not a guess. We don't lick the finger and put it in the air and go, we think it's worked. It's actually...
Yeah, well, I guess it's a bit of a strategic of taking away the friction points. And then I suppose it's an entry level into angling, perhaps for carp, once you've got the love and you've taken away you've made it short windows of angling. So it is an easy introduction for...
See, I've had battles, and traditionalists that are watching this, I'm not going to apologise, we're going to disagree on this point, but you get the traditionalists that say, oh, angling's terrible now, it's awful. They go straight into carp angling, they're missing the journey, they should start and they should catch a little roach first, like I did when I was little. Yeah, but you're 365, the world's changed since then. You know, this is the modern day, it's not the old day. You know, yeah, but they don't understand watercraft, they don't do this, that and the other. And I think the old view is that angling is a linear journey, that you start here and you end up as a carp angler.
Yeah,
I totally disagree with that. I think it's a cyclical journey that if I was a carp angler, then I wouldn't be doing all of these other things. I've been a carp angler for years, but I love trout fishing. I picked the fly rod up. It's amazing. Fly fishing for pike was the next stage. Wow.
Yeah.
How exciting is that? I've become a huge predator angler in the winter. I love my perch fishing. And it gets me out fishing because I haven't got the time to spend 48 hours on a bank, but I can go out and catch perch in 2 hours.
Yeah.
As a result of that, what I've now done is why I've got into the sea is I love my lure fishing so much and the technicalities that come with it that I want to do it all the time. But actually, it's not very good in the summer. The water's coloured, so the sight feeding isn't quite as good. There's loads of different challenges. So I got the coast now and I catch wrasse.
Okay.
And wrasse are just amazing.
Yeah.
They're such good fighters. They're so accessible. Guess what? Sea fishing's free.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, that's something I've never really, like I said, fearful of what you pull out of the sea. So,
well, if you've got a spinning rod for perch, then you've got a bass rod, you've got a pollock rod, and you've got a wrasse rod. So all you need to do is change your hook and whatever the lure is on the end of it, and actually you can go out and you can fish all those other things as well.
Yeah.
And like yesterday, I went down to the coast. We had a meeting, had a couple of bits and bobs of work to do, but I've tied it in. I like it that much. I've now bought myself a rib, so I've got an inflatable boat. It's 4.5 metre. I've got a little engine on the back of it. Me and a mate went down there. We stuck a couple of beers in. It's like we're not touching them till we've caught one. It was lovely weather. We were out. We caught amazing wrasse yesterday. And it was it's so rewarding.
Yeah, just being out on the water, I find. That's what made me want to go tuna fishing that time, just because I just love being out on a boat. And although I guess there's a lot of people that, we had one on our trip that get seasickness, and you think for them, it's they don't know they got it until you're halfway into the trip, or even just pulled out and you're like, that's a long day for them. But
it's not nice. But
no, I always think about planning another day of doing that, and some new mates that might love it, but if they all get seasick, you feel like it's been a lonely day for me. But yeah, so I say to a lot of my friends that aren't into fishing, when I say about Carp Team England, they all laugh at me. How's that a thing, Carp Team England? You've been representing England on it.
Well, I've fished for England. I think the first time I represented England was '96.
Okay.
So I was fishing with Simon Crowe. We won the first World Cup. So that was amazing. I loved it so much. When I was young, I was horrendously competitive. I still am, but I can control it a little bit more. But back then, I was horrendously competitive.
Right.
I would want to race you to the door when we finished this. It's literally I don't know where it came from, but I've always been horrendously competitive. So
how did that come about then? Is that through Sky and everything as well?
No, this is going back to when I was in primary school.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
So that's why the bit I was confused about when you went on that first programme. What made them? Was it the one with Keith
Arthur and Bruno Brooks? Yeah, that was after the World Cup in 1996. So Simon and I had won the World Cup in 1996, so we were world champions. So we were the first ever world champions in carp fishing.
Right.
And as a result, obviously, it was big news. It was in the Angling Times, and the Anglers Mail, which were the two main fishing papers at the time. And then the telly got in touch and said, "Can we come and do an interview?" So I did interviews with BBC and ITV in the Midlands area because it was all, it was quite a big thing. And then they said, "Will you come on?" So I went on first to talk about that. And then while I was there, they found out that I was a lawyer, and they said, "Be really interesting to do a little legal show. Would you come in and we'll talk about fishing law? Because there's quite a lot of that stuff around as well." So I went in and did that, and they went, "You can talk the hind legs off a donkey. Do you want to keep coming in?" So carp fishing was obviously growing. It's really, really popular. So they'd have like 3 or 4 weekly cycle. It would be course, game, sea, carp. So they would have this Friday will be course. So it'll be whoever it is. Might be match fishing, might be trout fishing, whatever. It might be tench fishing. Next one would be game fishing, so they'd have a fly angling guest in. Next one will be a sea angling one, and then the next one will be a carp one. And then they found that the carp ones were just more and more popular, so they started putting carp on twice. But it started getting really busy, so they got a panel of 4 of us. So there was me, there was Terry Hearn, who was talking about the big fish hunting. You got Lee Jackson, who at the time was working in the tackle box as well. I think he was British record holder at the time. So he was on. And then there was Frank Warwick, who was the rig innovator and people who used to talk about tactics and stuff like that. So they'd got 4 of us and they used to cycle us. So we'd be in a couple of times, every month or 2.
Right.
I kept going in there doing that. So that's how that all started.
Yeah, that's helped me join the dots for that. I can work out, how did you get in? Okay, well, is that still a thing now with England and carp fishing?
It's
internationally.
Like Carp Team England is massive at the moment. Or international competition carp fishing is massive, should I say. I took over as I fished first, obviously, won it. Brought the concept of competition carp fishing back to the UK because nobody did it over here. Carp fishing was all about pitting your wits against the big fish. It wasn't about competition. And I loved it that much. I thought, well, if I like it, other people will like it.
Yeah.
We were having a chat just before, weren't we, this kicked off, about if you find it interesting, the chances are someone else will find it interesting as well.
Yeah.
So I loved it and thought, other people are going to love this. It's a really interesting thing trying to sell something to somebody when they want it is relatively simple. Trying to sell something to somebody when they don't want it is difficult. Trying to sell something that doesn't exist, that hasn't existed and people don't even know what it is an interesting concept. But it was a case of, look, this is what it is. I'm going to be running this. Would you like to come? And in that first year, it was amazing. Loads of people came.
Right.
If I was to tell you, Terry Hearn, as a prime example, he's fished in the British Carp Angling Championships. He was in it that first year. Danny Fairbrass, all the Quarter boys, all the Fox boys. Ian Chilcott, who is, I don't like competition carp fishing. Truly fishing it. He was in competition.
Right.
So, Nick Hellier.
Are they as competitors or are they as a support team? Okay.
No, as competitors,
right.
Yeah. So they came in, this was into the British Carp Angling Championship. So I set up effectively the FA Cup of carp fishing,
right,
where they fished in all these individual eliminators. And eventually, if you won your eliminator or come in the top three, you qualified to a semi-finals, and then you get through to a finals. And then once you've got through the finals, you win the title of British Carp Angling Championship, a potload of money and a big trophy.
Yeah.
Plus, it's funny. We're all a part of history all the time. History is being made all the time. Some things are bigger than others. This is historic now because it's one of your first podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's a historic moment. We don't know how big this history will be, but nevertheless, in this sphere of history, we are making history at the moment.
Yeah. One of my things with this, with my position in being, I feel like I'm second generation to the first generation, as the fishery and management was maturing.
Yeah.
You've got people like Viv, Andrew Ellis, and the first generation. And I feel like because I'm second generation, I'm not welcome here because the first generation are old boys. They see little whippersnappers like me coming up, and I don't feel like I'm welcome. But I'm doing this, the podcast thing really is because I want to be better at communicating. That's why I would love to have you in and help me to communicate my message, because I've had quite a unique journey with fishery management, consultation, but I'm just rubbish at communicating it. So I've been getting all the help I can get, throw myself into the podcast to try and get all the help I can to communicate what I've learned over my years in fishery management, to sort of feel more in that first generation and be welcomed into that environment where it was almost like the fishery management has kind of matured as a market or an industry. Would you say that? Like before your 100%.
Time? Look, exactly the same in carp fishing, because 35 years ago actually, 35 years ago, I was you. So I was coming into a carp angling world. Me and Simon started writing magazine features, and back in the day, everybody then was old school. They were all camo. Richie McDonald was the hero. Nobody would say anything to anybody. You kept your carp secret. You didn't like anybody else knowing anything at all. And both me and Simon, how we got into writing for the magazines first, which was our first step into the public eye, which is effectively the same as you, podcast. When you put your head above the parapet, how did we get into it? I can't remember who wrote it, but somebody wrote a feature about backleads. And we saw it and just thought, that is complete and utter horseshit. Whoever's wrote that clearly does not know what they're doing, or alternatively is lying, because that just isn't right. Because the experience that we've got of doing that is totally different. And I remember being so incensed about this feature that back in the day, you didn't telephone people, you used to write to them. Crowe wrote to Julian Cundiff, who was the editor of Carp Fisher at the time, and he said, "Dear Jules," and they'd exchanged a couple of letters beforehand, and he wrote to Julian Cundiff and said, "Just seen the feature that Joe Bloggs has wrote. it's a complete and utter pile of horseshit. Totally disagree with it.
Disagree with the concept of a backleg?
With the concept of how these guys were saying that you should use a backlead.
Okay.
So, backleds are useful for certain things, but this guy, there's so much bullshit in angling, unfortunately, that if you've got enough confidence and bluster, you can say something and everybody believes you about it, whether you're right or not. And, opinions are great, but the problem is that just because you've got an opinion doesn't necessarily mean it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the modern day problem is that everybody thinks their opinion is valid.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's an opinion. Fact trumps opinion.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Everybody can have an opinion, but the fact is the fact. So again, it's the lawyer side of things, but that's it. So this guy got an opinion. We'd only got a different opinion, but we just thought his was wrong. So Julian Cundiff wrote back to Crowe and went, well, if you think you can do better, pal, step up. So it's like, right then. So we will. So anyway, he said, if you think you can do better, crack on. So we did. And we wrote a feature and Jules went, you know what, that's quite good. I think Crowe wrote it. I checked it with him, but I think the first one, thinking about it, Crowe wrote it, although we went through it together. And it was published. So we thought, blimey, we've had a magazine feature published. And I'd always been thinking about where to go. Back in those days, we had a closed season, so between March and June you couldn't fish. Right. And there were certain venues that used to allow any method trout fishing. So you could go and stick 3 rods and boilies out fishing for trout. And if you didn't catch one, then that was a shame. And if you caught a carp by mistake, then what you had to do was put it back. So there were, like, Broadlands, I think, was one. Farlow's was another. And there was a place up north called Sapphire Lakes that used to do it as well. And I used to want to go. It was a day ticket lake. There were very, very few day ticket lakes at that time. And I fancied going up there, but was a bit skint. And thought about a series of magazine features that would show people where to go fishing, because it was all club lake fishing then. So, all the day ticket waters features, that was started by me and Simon Crowe.
Right.
So nobody used to write in magazines about where to go. It was always about either how to do it or look at me, I'm great, here's another 20-pounder. So I saw a gap in the market and thought, as far as magazines are concerned, there's no guides on where to go and how to do it. So I thought I'll do like a wish you were here style. Where is it? How do you get there? How much is it? What does it look like? What are the facilities? Do they do breakfasts? All of these things. And then thought we'll put some tactics about how to fish it. So we've actually fished it. We've had a go at it. This is what we've done. This is what we caught or this is what we didn't catch. But we think it's all right. So got in touch with Tim Paisley, who was editor of Carp World magazine at the time, or owner of Carp World as well, and said, look, got an idea for a feature. Would you be interested? And he went, bloody hell, that's a good idea. Send one in. And then he got back in touch and went, tell you what, send 3 in and we'll see how they go. So we did 3. And there was a huge following because, of course, it was, typical fundamentals of business. If you can spot a gap in the market and give someone something, then if you're first, then it'll be great.
Yeah.
So I'm not answering the question that you've asked me now, but this was the route to that same thing, that it's just another first. So me and Simon set up basically the promotion and marketing of day ticket waters at that time through the magazines. And as a result, there was a huge growth in it. And if you look now how many day ticket waters there are, it would have always got there, but I think it was springboarded by the fact that day ticket waters originally were deemed to be noddy venues. Yeah. So you saying you're the new boy at the table, me and Simon have stepped up. There's all of these hardcore cool carp anglers fishing club lakes for 20-pounders and the occasional 30. And me and Crowe, Jim Gibbonson called us the Kiss and Tell twins. There was all sorts of people taking the mickey about us because we were happy to turn around and go, you know what? There's some great fishing available. This is how to do it. This is where to go. And if you want some tips, this is what we did. Right. So we came up with this concept. So I feel your pain exactly on being the new boy at the table amongst an old guard, because in the 90s it was brutal.
Right.
And we were getting that in the 90s. We started writing in 1993.
Okay.
And we were changing the concept of how people could fish and what they thought about fishing, and also what was credible and what wasn't.
Right.
And for a while, it was, it was quite nasty. People used to go, oh, you're doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be telling people.
Right.
They like I say, we in print, people were saying, oh, the Kiss and Tell twins are coming up again, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, then fine, fair enough.
Okay, so I thought that was something unique to me, because I thought that the industry has matured in the last sort of 30 years to a point where the people that are first there they feel like that's their ground. But actually, it's probably not unique to our industry and not unique to me, because you say you've seen it in your time as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I just think that's it. People are always protective about their area, especially if it's a niche area.
Yeah.
And particularly if you're coming in and doing something slightly different, because people either don't like it, they're resistant to change, or alternatively, they feel that maybe you're a bit of a threat because you're doing things slightly different or better. But, the attraction and the advantage that both you've got now and we had back then was that things want to change.
Yeah.
Actually, there is something that a guy called Darwin, who was a very, very clever fella, established, and that is evolution. And you've only got to look out the window at nature around you and see that every single thing evolves.
Yeah.
There is nothing that stays exactly the same. Everything evolves.
Yeah.
Some things evolve slowly, some things evolve quickly.
Yeah.
But everything evolves, and carp fishing evolves, and fishery management evolves, and marketing evolves.
Yeah, that's where I sort of see my skill stack, if you can call it that, with video editing. Like the old guard that we talk about, they're not going to have any interest or any drive to want to do that. But because I've matured around as media has grown and tech has sort of evolved, I guess, video editing is something I do it all myself, my own editing and YouTube channel. Although we have a podcast, Craig editing all of this, I've found that for a competitor or somebody that like the old guard that would have to pay someone to do that because they don't have the drive or the want to edit, or it's kind of an environment or a landscape which is so vast that it's overwhelming. I found for me that is part of why I think that I've got a bit of an edge, is because I can do that as part of my skill set, and it's something that will keep me there. But yeah, that's encouraging that you've noticed the same.
It's everything was available to everybody.
Yeah,
isn't it? Everything's available. Either you've thought of it before someone else has, or you've made the effort to do it, and other people can't be bothered.
Yeah.
So
it's the same with I've noticed with my business as well, that if I have a year where I say, right, I'm gonna push hard this year, gonna invest in ads, really go hard on my marketing spend, and then those years when you try hard is when you get the most hate. So the years when you sit back and let things happen organically, you don't get, it's silent. No one is having little pops at you because they can't see you trying. And I think that's maybe because when people see you try it, and it's almost they feel like, I should be trying as well. Take
a little bit of advice from an old lag that's been there and done it. This is where you've got to not take it to heart, because it's very difficult. And we've all been there. I've through COVID, I was absolutely at the forefront of trying to get fishing started during COVID, and it was quite a tough time. And I'm mentally very strong. I'm a tough person. I can take criticism where it's justified. I can ignore criticism where it's not.
Yeah.
I think that I'm quite mentally quite strong.
Yeah.
And during the COVID period, it was a really difficult time because, for a number of reasons, some of them partly selfish, I wanted to get people fishing again as quickly as possible. One, because there was no reason really why we shouldn't fish, because you can socially distance, that you could come out into the outside world and enjoy yourself, whereas we were all locked up. And we, actually, Neil will remember very well, because I made an announcement when I was down here, because I was helping Neil with the management of the lake at the time. People weren't allowed to fish, they weren't allowed to go out. I lived not too far down the road. I'll come down here. And there were some bits and bobs of information. The country was absolutely split. 50% of the country was, you should not go out, you should stay in. Simple as that. Even if you go out, if you trip over a paving slab and you have to go to hospital for it, it's more burden on the NHS. You should not go out. As a result, stay in your house. Don't even open the curtains. Yeah. The opposite end of it was, I'm going to do what the fuck I want. Who are you to tell me? Why should I not do that? There is no reason why we shouldn't go. There's no reason why we shouldn't do. And literally there were two polar opposites between these people. Now I'm in the middle, trying to be sensible, trying to get fishing allowed again. Mm-hmm. And you could see that there was going to be a car crash with people's state of minds, because being imprisoned, which is effectively what we were under house arrest. You could go out and you could bike for 20 minutes a day. And, when it first started, it was a terrifying period. So everybody was quite scared at the time about what was going on. And if you weren't scared, you're mad.
Yeah.
There was, because nobody knew what was going to happen with this thing.
Yeah.
So there was an awful lot of emotion running around. But for me, it was a natural progression that actually fishing is something that we can do, because you can be part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah.
Because people going fishing, they're outside, they're not cooped up in the houses. Just the relationship stress of having, you, the missus, 3 kids running around in a flat.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So people at the time were saying, "Oh, we're all in the same boat." Absolutely not. And this is 100%. I disagreed. Nobody was in the same boat. We were in the same storm, but your boat might be big and my boat might be small.
Yeah.
So as a result, that was a massive thing that you had to consider, that you can't turn around and go, "Oh, we're all in this together," because we're only in the same storm.
Yeah.
And if you're in the eye of the storm, it might be calmer than if I'm right on the outside edge of it and there's a big strong wind blowing.
Yeah.
So, it was a case of, right, let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can get fishing back. And one of the key things was, 1, physical benefits being outside, 2, mental benefits. Yeah. And I do an awful lot of work with military charities. So a lot of people will know about it. There's a lot of stuff that I do that people don't know, but I work very closely with a lot of armed services. I work with a number of charities, and one of the key issues with soldiers that have been serving is there are physical injuries, but they cope with them. It's the mental injuries that are worse, whether it's as a result of a physical injury or whether it's a result of exposure to things that no human being should be exposed to. So PTSD is a massive issue. And using angling as a treatment tool, we've seen over a number of ways that it is a fantastic thing to make people feel better. Whether it's making them feel physically better, whether then it's making them feel mentally better, whether it's making them feel mentally better about their physical situation, because the two are linked as well. And a lot of the insight data that we'd had through working, I've also worked with the Stroke Society as well, just as another example, but I've got loads of data about this, and we were feeding this up to government through Angling Trust about why we can do it and how beneficial angling is for mental health. At the same time, there's loads of green space and blue space therapy studies done. Cardiff University is a prime example. They're a really good medical university, and they look at the benefits of green space therapy, as they call it. That's just going out into the wide open.
Right.
And what they've actually found is that blue space therapy is even better than green space. So for some reason, and we're anglers now. Anybody watching this that's an angler will know it. You calm when you buy water. Yeah. You just it does something to you.
Yeah, it's getting to a point where it's prescribed, I think, from what I was reading.
Still is.
It is, yeah.
That was a project scheme started off in Radstock.
Right, okay.
So the issue with that, and if you want the boring backstory on that, but and it's a commercial backstory, but they call it social prescribing. But the pilot study was by Wessex Water down here, because basically when people take antidepressants, and it's exactly the same with estrogen and the birth control pill, it can't be processed by water treatment plants. So as a result, it passes through into the watercourses. Now, we never lose water. We don't get rid of it. It recycles itself all the time, because we've got a bottle here. That will go into me. I will obviously piss it out. It will go into the toilet. It will end up going through the sewage system. It'll end up going in the river. Eventually, it'll end up in the sea. What will happen is it will end up possibly being in another bottle at some stage. So water's always recycled. And natural process takes some things out of it, but when you're putting a man-made chemical into it, sometimes you need a man-made process to take that out. And they find that they can't get estrogen out of the water, and they can't get antidepressants out of the water. So as a result, what they've got to do, and again, this is exactly my thought process on it, we've got to try and reduce this. How do we reduce it? Well, you can either take it out or you can not put it in.
Right.
So if we don't put it in, then there's not going to be as much in there.
Yeah.
So it's two ways of meeting in that middle ground, which is we need to reduce this. So a project was funded through a surgery in Radstock to start doing what they call social prescribing. So how can we get people off antidepressants? And looking at this research about blue and green space therapy, there were 3 things that they tried. One of them was just getting out and walking, which has obviously got physical benefits as well, because it gets people out doing stuff. The other one was outdoor photography, because everyone's got a camera on the phone. So going out and doing a little bit of outdoor photography and taking your mates out, because it's a really cheap, easy, simple thing to do. And the other one was fishing. Right, so because they know a lot of people go fishing, so trying to get people into fishing. And as a result now, it's actually become socially prescribed. Right. And it's a new way of looking at medicine. Yeah. As opposed to just the straightforward, I'm not feeling very well, tell you what, mate, have a painkiller. Yeah. Oh, I'm stressed a bit. Yeah, I have an antidepressant. I feel like
that's opened a can of worms in my brain with the estrogen and not coming out of the water, and how is that the catalyst to a lot more problems wider than our industry.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. 100% it is. There was a guy, and it's a little specialist niche area of interest of mine, but there was a guy called Professor John Sumter who used to work at Brunel University, and he was the first one to talk about estrogen in fish. And he did a survey of 5 rivers. I remember the Derbyshire Derwent was one. I was in the Midlands at the area, and I was involved in fisheries and environmental law. And it was a really interesting concept that this guy came up with, and everyone went, "Hey, you're mad." Yeah. But what was happening was that they were finding, and the tell, and this is why fishing is so important, the tell was the roach recruitment in the river wasn't as good as it normally was.
Right.
And they couldn't work out why there weren't as many roach. And then what they found out was that some of the fish-eating animals on there, including otters, they were struggling as well. And it's like, well, there must be a link. What's the link? And an obvious link is easy to see, but something that's slightly more hidden was more of an obvious link. And what they found was that reproductive organs on otters were being affected by the fish they were eating, because the gonads were shrinking and they weren't sexually active.
Right.
And that was because they were eating roach that were living in an area that was just by a sewage outflow.
Right.
And it got very high concentrations of estrogen.
Well,
I bet you never thought you were going to be talking about this. I'm going to go and interview Rob Hughes. Let's talk about
it's a fishery management podcast. I don't think we've touched on any fishery management. Yeah. But another story similar to that, I want to just touch on. It was the same with Glastonbury Festival, weren't they saying that the eels along the Somerset Levels, isn't it?
Yes.
That they're having is it the potential drug taking in Glastonbury? Or the pills that are then being finding their way leaching into the...
They percolate through, that's why they now have the big above ground reservoirs, because they used to just have piss pits, didn't they? So you go in, but they can't do that anymore, because ultimately everything ends up in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the science or the intricate pieces of that story, but
no, that's right as well with Glastonbury.
Yeah, absolutely. Mad. So. But another thing we haven't spoken about, which I know was, I assume was a part of your career, was the diving side of it, which we've not spoken to.
That's a hobby.
A hobby, isn't it?
That's not a career. We didn't do the England thing yet. We've gone in such a big circle.
Where did we get to the England thing?
We got to the England thing if I set up the British Carp Champs.
Oh yeah, of course. And then we went off on a...
Yeah, it went off on one, and then after the British Carp Champs, basically. The World Championships set up. It grew and grew and grew and grew. The various different people managed England, and I'll say it. We didn't do very well.
Right.
We didn't do very well at all. So in 2015, Dick Clegg, who is just an angling guru, he used to manage the England match fishing teams. He was the FIPS link. FIPS is the international governing body of fishing, so it's a bit like FIFA. But so we have all of the structure in place as well. He got in touch and said, "Look, do you fancy the England manager's job?" It's like, well, my God, do I ever? It doesn't matter what your sport is, whether you are a professional footballer, whether you are an athlete, whether you're a tiddlywinks player, whether you're an angler, whether you're a Morris dancer. It does not matter. The pinnacle is representing your country at your sport.
Yeah, my friends couldn't get their head round when I said to you I was speaking to today, and England carp fishing.
But if there's a competitive element, then there is competition, and I feel that the biggest honour is representing your country. So as a result, to represent my country first was one thing. To be called for your country first, because you can be called but not actually represent. So to be called, then to represent, to actually get a cap, then effectively to score a goal, but then to win the World Championships. That was mad.
Yeah.
And then I got into organising rather than just competing. So as a result, I sort of retired from competition. So then to be called back a little bit later on and said, "Will you manage it? Look, we're not doing very well. We need somebody that can pull it together." Completely disbanded the team, put the England structure back together again. We won the World Championships. Wow. So it's like, wow. So I've won as a competitor. I've now won as a manager.
Yeah.
Then my primary goal at that time was trying to really bring a bit of dignity back and become competitive.
Yeah.
So did that. We then had a bronze. We had another near miss as well. So we've won virtually nothing, and now suddenly we are right up there. And I remember I've just had a flashback then, sorry. We were saying earlier about tears. This is one that might get me, actually, because it's the passion coming out. I was the flag bearer at the World Games for all of the England teams.
Right.
So the World Games is basically like the Olympic Games, but for fishing. So instead of just having carp fishing, all of the teams from around the world in every single discipline of freshwater fishing were there. So we got women's, men's, freshwater, match fishing, feeder, carp, all of these things. We've gone over to South Africa. I'm in Nelson Mandela Square. There are thousands of people lining the streets. There are literally thousands of athletes there. It's a big opening ceremony. You know, the president of South Africa is there giving speeches, and I'm leading England with a flag through that parade. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm retiring after that. That was it. That was for me the pinnacle. I've been called. I've represented. I've won. I'm the manager. I've won world championships. I'm now at the World Games as the flag bearer, in charge of all the teams going out. I'm now, that's it. So I said to the lads, I'm retiring after that. And they went, no, you're not. So I said, I am. This is it. It's not going to get any better than this. And two people in particular, captain at the time was a guy called Jamie Launders, a good pal of mine as well, Wayne Mansford, who was a lot of the time the spokesman for the team. They took me to one side separately and went, you're not retiring. Wayne said, if you do, we're going. In which case, all the work that you've done will be for nothing. Yeah. And Jamie said, you can't retire because we're currently ranked 3rd in the world. We were rubbish before you came. We're currently ranked 3rd in the world. It's like, wow, you know, you think about it, that's impressive. And he said, you know that you want 1st. And I thought, yeah, I do. So I stayed and we got 1st in the world.
Wow.
So we got ranked world number 1. And I thought, yeah. And I'm now close.
You said you were competitive when you were young and you're still there.
So, yeah. So brilliant. 3 gold medals, bronze medals, set up the women's, set up the under-22s, world rank number 1. That's it. Wow. So I'm now retired. Interestingly, 2 days ago, I got called up.
Right.
To fish.
Oh, wow.
So it's gone.
Again. Okay. Well, Rob, I think we've been pretty much everywhere bar fishery management, but we've run out of time. So I'm so thankful that you've come on. I know how busy you are, and it's been actually really refreshing to hear your story. Similar sort of journey to me and same challenges. And it's been one of the first podcasts where I've felt out of my depth because you're so experienced in this field and you've really helped me along through this. And thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed hearing your story and your neutral view, which probably comes from your profession of lawyer. And well done in all you've done for angling and representing us as carp fishing as an industry, I suppose.
Well, fishing generally, but thank you very much. Well, it'll carry on.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Lovely.
We'll have to do another one because we've missed so much there. I've got loads on that list we haven't touched on, but thank you very much.
Yeah, brilliant. No problem.